Part 2, closing arguments. State versus Icoviello. This is Attorney Krupp.
Was fired from the direction of the high school, as Daniel Talbot's friends would have you believe. Daniel Talbot wasn't knocked backwards. He was knocked forwards. Or at least he fell forwards. We know he couldn't have walked forwards or stepped forwards or leaned forwards after he was shot. Dr. Schmaumann tells you that. Couldn't have taken any volitional action after he was shot. Has the Commonwealth explained why, if it were to prove them, have they explained why, if the shot was fired from the high school, Daniel Talbot fell forward? Not a single witness explained it. Maybe Daniel Talbot did in fact get knocked backwards, as you might expect using your common sense. Might Evan Franklin, who ran after the incident, hitched a ride from Robert and Pemba over on B Street and concealed the fact that he had been at the high school, might he have had a gun on him that he fired back at the kids, hitting Daniel Talbot after Daniel Talbot had turned? I know Evan Franklin denied it, but would he admit it? The physical evidence says that was the positioning of Daniel Talbot's body after he was hit. Evan Franklin said he had a number of guns at his house, but you have to take his word for what those guns were. The police didn't search his house, they didn't confiscate or check any of his guns except the service weapon that was in Soto's trunk.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about right here. Franklin, on testimony, didn't know what kind of guns he had in the house. He was just really vague about it. And I'm telling you, as a guy, you know what kind of gun you got, you know what kind of knives you got, you know what kind of motorcycle you got. These are guy things and women things who shoot guns. You know what you got. And so I'm not saying that, you know, this assertion that's being made right now by Attorney Krupp is correct. All I'm saying is that the testimony of Sergeant Franklin is suspect, and his other actions were suspect too, and how he even got back on the force is suspect after he ran away with Randall, and they had that whole issue years ago as cadets. It's insane.
Sergeant Canavan told you that there are hundreds of thousands of high-point semi-automatic firearms in circulation. He said 125,000 are made each year. Lieutenant Condon offered that they couldn't search his house because they needed probable cause. Well, given Franklin's actions, didn't they have probable cause? But there are other ways to search, too. Lieutenant Murphy told you yesterday they could have asked Evan Franklin for permission to search his house. Did they ask? Did he deny them access? I want to discuss the integrity of the crimes.
And another thing, the insistence of Officer Soto to get his phone. You know, I think he wanted to call Franklin to make sure, hey, did you shoot him? I mean, this is just my speculation, but, you know, I'm a citizen, I'm an intelligent citizen, and I'm going to make that speculation. It's a shame either way, but, you know, these questions have to be asked, and I'm going to ask them.
This investigation violates standard procedures in so many ways. It significantly undermines the evidence collected and the inferences that you could draw from that evidence. What happened after Daniel Talbot was shot? William Soto sends Stacy Brzezzi and Constance Bethel to call 911. Two people to make one call. They both leave the area where Daniel Talbot and William Soto were, and they go to the truck. What does William Soto do while they're away? Does he pick up any shell cases? Does he put any shell cases in the garbage? He says he stays with William Soto, but do you think he would tell you if he picked up any of those cases? No one checks him. No one keeps him at the scene. He is a key recipient witness, maybe the key recipient witness, and he leaves the scene. He doesn't have to go out to identify people. You know that. If people locate anyone with a red shirt and black pants, they'll bring them back to the police station, as they brought dozens and dozens of people into the police station for questioning in the hours afterwards. And they can have William Soto view them in a lineup. But that's not what happens. He leaves the scene with who knows what material from the scene, and none of the police there try to stop him. Soto leaves the scene, but not before he has a particularly telling conversation with one person. Who's the first guy on the scene? Joshua Buxbaum. A neighbor, the neighbor, and a trained first responder. He comes out of his house about 3 minutes after he hears shots being fired with a flashlight, and he sees Soto and Talbot. And he sees Soto start to go and pick up 2 guns. holsters, holding them both. Is he planning to do something with the guns when he leaves the scene? In any event, he picks up the guns, he says, because he's afraid Constance Bethel, who was in the area and she, understandably distraught, might grab him.
Time out. I bet you Buck's mom knows what kind of gun he's got. Time in.
Does that make sense? Officer Manara was on the scene and sees at least one gun on the ground. If other responding officers are at the scene, why does Soto have to carry off the weapons? Officer LaRosa testified that William Soto told him, "Here, you have to take these from me." Soto hands LaRosa 2 guns. Does Officer LaRosa ask any questions? No. A fellow officer asked him to do something, and he does it without question. That's the way things are done in Revere. Just like Officer Impemba stopping for Evan Franklin and driving him up the street, rather than responding directly to the high school. No questions asked. Soto says he leaves the scene, the area, after Officer Kravassarat gets there to attend and take over care of Daniel Talbot. Officer Kravassarat testified that Soto wasn't even there when he got there. Daryl LaMonica, Revere Police Department, arrives on the scene and sees Soto alone toward the beginning of the path into the baseball field area. Soto tells LaMonica that he had witnessed events and had fired his weapon, and that Talbot had fired his weapon at least once. Soto says he wants to leave the scene with LaMonica. Does LaMonica tell him it's not a good idea? No. A fellow Revere officer asks LaMonica to do something, and he does it without question.
Yeah, it happens a lot in New England, and this part is for Lico Kenny, and Michelle Kenny, and Davy Kenny, and Mahina Kenny, and all of North Country.
For themselves, like a homeless person in the city would be on the street starving. Homeless person up here might be on the street, but they're not going to be starving because there's too many good people, and they just can't. No one will sit around and watch that happen. Everyone will throw in some food for people.
That's Woody's job. I wonder Woody's job.
It's all, yeah. It really is. It's tight, natural. It's a tight-knit community. I mean, not everyone's. Even people who aren't family, we're friends, and it's friends where our parents were friends, and their parents were friends, and their parents were the people who came and settled the place.
Well, that's how I get up here.
You should.
That's how my folks met. And that's how we got the cottage. They bought the land from Jack and
You should have heard all the stories that were at my grandfather's funeral service. I mean, people loved my grandfather and grandmother so much for what they did. They were such open people. They started a tennis camp, and instead of being like, "This is ours, come here and pay for it," it wasn't like the doors were open. That was what everyone came and said. You come there, they give you a job, they give you a place to stay, they pay you for staying at a nice place to live. I mean, you can't beat it. You can't beat it.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, that investigation there, that so-called sham investigation right there in Franconia over that double homicide, that was a total farce. And as a former assistant attorney general, I know Kelly Ayotte should not be a senator. She shouldn't have been an AG. Anyway, that's a different story, but read into it. Thank you and good night.